Hello, esteemed gentlemen. The most dangerous man isn't the one who shouts, it's the one who watches and waits. Let that sink in. Because in a world loud with fake alphas, dopamine junkies, and social media peacocks strutting for likes, the quiet one in the corner is the one you should really be afraid of. You see, most people assume Sigma males are just introverts with a mysterious vibe. Cute, right? But here's a fact. Studies in social psychology show that emotionally detached individuals often have the highest capacity for strategic thinking under pressure. Translation? When the Sigma male stops observing and starts acting, he doesn't just make noise, he rewrites the rules of the entire room. And here's the kicker. Most of the time, the Sigma male holds back. He doesn't unleash his full force, not because he can't, but because he doesn't need to. But when he does, it's not a meltdown, it's not a tantrum, it's cold, calculated, controlled, and terrifying. This isn't your cliché lone wolf story. This is what happens when the man who never needed a pack finally decides to stop playing nice. And trust me, it gets dark, so buckle up. Here are 20 scary things that happen when a Sigma male reveals his dark side. And if you think this is going to be one of those he becomes confident and successful fairy tales, you're in for a very rude awakening. Let's begin. Number 1. He uses people's egos as levers and doesn't even feel bad about it. When a Sigma male reveals his dark side, something shifts. He stops avoiding manipulation and instead starts mastering it. He begins using people's egos like tools, not out of malice but with precision. He knows exactly how people want to be seen, praised, respected, or envied, and he flips that knowledge into power. He's not emotional about it. He doesn't enjoy controlling others for fun. But when he decides it's time to move pieces on the board, he moves them with ruthless efficiency. People usually don't notice it happening. That's the scariest part. The Sigma male doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, doesn't puff up his chest. Instead, he studies what people crave. Some want recognition. Others want to be feared. Many just want to feel important in a world that ignores them. He feeds them just enough of what they need to keep them walking the path he designed. And they think it was their idea. He'll let someone talk themselves into doing something for him, thinking they're in control the entire time. And when they're in too deep to turn around, they'll realize they were never in control to begin with. He doesn't guilt-trip or emotionally manipulate in the way narcissists do. It's cleaner than that, scarier than that. He's detached, surgical, and precise. The most unnerving part? He feels nothing about it. No regret, no internal conflict, just calm calculation. Because once his dark side is out, he stops protecting people from their own weaknesses. He starts using them. People's need to feel special becomes their leash. And he holds it lightly, like it costs him nothing. And it's true. He doesn't do it often. But when he does, it's because someone crossed a line, underestimated him, or thought his silence meant he was harmless. That's when he stops walking around people's egos and starts stepping on them, to get exactly what he wants, when he wants it. There's no scream, no warning shot, just a quiet, controlled shift. And by the time you realize he's the one pulling strings, you're already tangled in them. That's what makes it so terrifying. Number 2, stops protecting people from themselves. When a Sigma male's dark side comes out, he stops being the quiet guardian people never knew they had. Most of the time, he's observing, staying silent not because he's weak, but because he knows the truth cuts deeper than most can handle. He sees through the lies people tell themselves about who they are, what they deserve, what they're capable of, but he holds back, not to deceive them, but to give them space to survive their own illusions. He doesn't expose people unless he has to, until he does. But when the mask comes off, all bets are off. He stops cushioning the fall, stops sparing feelings, stops letting people play pretend. He no longer interrupts the disaster they're walking into. Instead, he watches, quietly, intentionally, because he knows they need to hit the ground to finally see what they've been avoiding. And when they fall, he doesn't soften the blow. He doesn't save them from the impact. He just lets reality do its work. There's no drama in it, no "I told you so," just complete emotional detachment. And that's what makes it sting more. People suddenly realize the Sigma always saw the truth. They were just too blind or arrogant to listen. And now that the veil is gone, they're left alone with the raw consequences. No sugarcoating, no comfort, just a cold mirror reflecting back everything they didn't want to face. He becomes the guy who no longer spares you from yourself. He lets your ego crash, lets your bad habits spiral, lets your lies catch up with you. Not because he wants you to suffer, but because he no longer feels responsible for your growth. That's on you now. And here's the brutal part, he doesn't even watch with satisfaction. There's no smugness, just silence, because once he stops protecting you from yourself, he's already moved on. And that quiet exit, that abandonment of emotional investment, that's what makes it scary. He knew the fire was coming. He just stopped trying to warn you. Number 3, he stops explaining himself, and that's when people panic. When a Sigma male stops explaining himself, it's not silence, it's a psychological vacuum. People don't just notice his withdrawal, they feel it deeply, because most of the world runs on reactions, validations, and predictable feedback loops. People ask questions, they expect answers, they poke, they expect resistance, they provoke, they expect emotion. But when the Sigma goes dark, nothing comes back. Just that dead calm silence that says everything and nothing at the same time. Up until then, people might have thought they understood him. Maybe they mistook his quiet nature for politeness. Maybe they thought they had control of the dynamic. But when he stops giving even the bare minimum, no clarification, no reassurance, no visible emotion, it unhinges them. Their minds start filling in the blanks, and what they fill it with? Worst-case scenarios, insecurity, paranoia, fear. Because the human brain hates not knowing, and the Sigma becomes a walking question mark that refuses to be solved. That's when people panic. Not because he's loud or aggressive, but because they can't read him anymore. He's no longer participating in the emotional script they're used to. They don't know if he's planning revenge, walking away, or pulling strings behind the scenes. And that uncertainty eats at them. It forces them to confront just how little power they actually had in the first place. The scary part is, he doesn't withdraw out of pettiness. He withdraws because he sees no value in wasting energy explaining himself to people who never truly listened. He doesn't perform for approval. He doesn't owe anyone an explanation. And once he enters that space, he becomes emotionally and psychologically untouchable. People start chasing his validation harder than ever, just to hear something, anything, that will ground them. But he gives them nothing. And in that void, their own insecurities echo louder than ever. That's when the game flips. That's when people realize they never had control. They only had access, and now it's gone. Number 4. He destroys illusions with sniper-level accuracy. When the Sigma male decides to speak from his dark side, he doesn't raise his voice. He raises truth like a blade, and he knows exactly where to cut. He doesn't attack people to hurt them. He attacks the lies they live by, the comfortable illusions they built their identity around, the fake confidence, the pretend morality, the borrowed values they preach to others, but don't live by themselves. He sees through all of it. And when he decides to strike, it's with sniper-level precision. No ranting, no drama, just a single sentence, maybe 2, delivered so quietly you almost miss it, until it hits you in the exact place you've been trying to avoid your whole life. That fragile belief you depend on to keep your ego intact, gone, in seconds. Because the Sigma doesn't waste energy swinging wildly. He takes one clean shot, and it lands exactly where it hurts most. What makes it brutal is that it's true. He doesn't exaggerate. He doesn't invent. He reflects back a version of reality so raw and undeniable, it leaves people speechless. You can't argue with it because deep down, you already knew. You just didn't want to hear it out loud, from someone who has nothing to gain by saying it. Most people don't realize how many illusions they're living under until someone points them out. And when the Sigma finally does, it's not with empathy, it's with eerie calm. There's no rescue coming after the truth, no shoulder to cry on, just exposure. Cold, accurate, and impossible to forget. That's what separates him from critics or haters. They scream from emotion, he kills with clarity. And once the illusion's shattered, there's no going back. You can't unhear it, you can't unknow it. That belief, That story you were telling yourself, it's gone. And all that's left is silence, and the uncomfortable realization that he saw you clearer than you've ever seen yourself. He doesn't destroy people. He lets them decide what to do after he's destroyed the lie they were hiding behind. And that's far more terrifying. Number 5. He unearths people's hidden power and forces them to face it. When a Sigma male goes dark, he doesn't just make people uncomfortable, he makes them face themselves. And not the filtered, polished version they show to the world. He digs into the parts they've buried deep, the power they abandoned, the ambition they were told was too much, the instincts they suppressed to fit in. He doesn't do it with a speech or a motivational pep talk. He does it by being the thing they're afraid to become. Completely self-owned, unapologetically sharp, and immune to social guilt. He becomes a mirror with no distortion. He reflects back the version of you that could have been unstoppable if you hadn't let fear, shame, or mediocrity dilute it. And when you see that reflection, it's not comforting. It's infuriating, because it forces you to admit how much of your potential you've been wasting. And that anger, that discomfort, it's not at him, it's at yourself. Most people are scared of their own power. Not because they don't have it, but because they know using it comes with consequences. Power means responsibility. Power means separation. Power means being disliked. And so they keep it buried, but the Sigma sees it instantly. That unspoken strength behind someone's eyes, the fire they've been trained to hide, and he calls it out without hesitation. What makes it dark is that he doesn't help you wield it. He doesn't guide you through the mess. He just exposes it and walks away. He shows you what you are capable of and then leaves you with that terrifying knowledge. Now you either evolve or collapse under the weight of your own potential. People think they want to be seen until they're really seen. Not for who they pretend to be, but for the raw, dangerous force inside them they've spent their lives avoiding. The Sigma doesn't flinch from that version of you. He drags it to the surface and leaves you with one haunting truth. You were never weak. You were just afraid of what you could really become. And now that you've seen it, you'll never unsee it again. Number 6. He walks away from things others would burn the world to keep, and that terrifies them. When a Sigma male taps into his dark side, one of the most unsettling things he does is walk away, not out of weakness, but out of total emotional detachment. He can drop what most people spend their entire lives chasing without blinking. Status? Gone. A relationship that no longer aligns with his growth. Cut. A career that once defined him but now feels suffocating, abandoned, and not in a dramatic look-at-me kind of way. He does it quietly, without ceremony, and without regret. This kind of behavior messes with people's heads because it doesn't fit any script they know. Society trains us to cling to titles, to lovers, to approval, to any form of identity that earns us acceptance. Most people will compromise their mental health, dignity, even their truth just to hold on to something familiar. But the Sigma male doesn't play that game. If it no longer serves him, he drops it and doesn't look back. That level of emotional independence is terrifying to people. It makes them question their own choices. It exposes how addicted they are to things that don't actually make them happy, just things that make them feel secure. And watching someone walk away from what they're desperate to keep makes them feel weak, powerless, confused, like they're staring at something alien. What really breaks them is the realization that they can't guilt him into staying. No emotional manipulation works. No, but you've invested so much arguments matter. He doesn't calculate based on sunk cost. He calculates based on freedom. He fears being trapped far more than being misunderstood. And once he senses he's outgrown a situation, no amount of status, affection, or approval can chain him there. People call it cold, ruthless, emotionless. But that's projection. The Sigma just understands something most don't. Attachment isn't always loyalty. Sometimes it's just fear in disguise. And he has no problem cutting fear off at the root. That's what terrifies people the most. Not that he walked away, but that he did it so easily. Number 7. He becomes immune to shame, and that's nuclear. When a Sigma male reveals his dark side, one of the most explosive transformations is this. He becomes immune to shame. And in a world that thrives on guilt-tripping, public opinion, and social pressure, that's not just rebellion. It's nuclear. Most people don't realize how much of their behavior is governed by shame. It's the invisible leash society uses to keep people obedient. You dress a certain way, act a certain way, think a certain way, not because it's who you are, but because it's what keeps you accepted. One wrong move and the hive turns on you. But when the Sigma crosses that line and stops caring how he's perceived, the whole game changes. He becomes untouchable, not because he fights back, but because he doesn't flinch. The looks, the whispers, the passive-aggressive jabs, none of it lands. You can't shame someone who's already burned the mask. This is when people get nervous. Because shame isn't just about embarrassment. It's a control mechanism. Take it away and the entire social order starts to wobble. People don't know what to do with someone who refuses to play along. Someone who sees through the performance and chooses to live by his own code, even if it makes others uncomfortable. He'll say the thing no one wants to hear. He'll do what others are too scared to attempt, and he won't apologize afterward. And this isn't the cringe kind of rebellion, where someone tries too hard to shock the world. The Sigma isn't performative. He's liberated. He knows shame is just fear wearing a moral disguise. And once he sees that, he stops letting it govern his decisions. This terrifies people not because he's cruel, but because he's free. Truly free. And freedom, when you're used to cages, looks dangerous. It breaks the illusion that you have to follow the script. The Sigma becomes living proof that you don't. And the scariest part? He's not looking for approval anymore. He's looking for truth. And once he's immune to shame, nothing can be used against him. Number 8. He confronts chaos with stillness, and that breaks people. When a Sigma male reveals his dark side, one of the most unnerving things he does is confront chaos without reacting. While everyone else spirals, shouting, scrambling, defending themselves, he stands still. Not frozen in fear, but rooted in a terrifying kind of stillness that says, I've already been through worse. There's no panic, no yelling, no emotional leakage. Just an eerie calm that cuts through the storm like a blade. People don't know how to process that kind of reaction. In most conflicts, emotions bounce off each other. Someone gets angry, someone else mirrors it. Tension builds like a chain reaction, but the Sigma doesn't join the dance. He lets the chaos scream around him while he remains disturbingly quiet. That silence becomes louder than any voice in the room, and people begin to unravel, not because he's doing anything, but because they don't know what he's thinking. That's what breaks them. You expect someone to fight back, you expect resistance, you expect emotion, but when someone stares back at you with no fear, no expression, no flinch, it feels like staring into something inhuman. That stillness becomes a psychological mirror reflecting your own instability. Suddenly, you start to question yourself, why am I reacting like this? Why isn't he? What does he know that I don't? The Sigma male isn't unbothered because he lacks emotion. He's unbothered because he's mastered it. He's already faced his own internal chaos, and it didn't destroy him, so external noise doesn't move him. He's been alone. He's been doubted. He's been betrayed. He's made peace with the abyss, and now he lives beside it. That level of internal control doesn't just confuse people, it intimidates them. Because deep down, everyone knows, the calmest man in the room is the one you should fear most. Not because he'll explode, but because if he decides to act, it won't be emotional, it'll be surgical. So while the world burns, the Sigma doesn't run or rage. He just watches, waiting, calculating, holding the line without blinking, and in that moment, chaos realizes it can't control him, and that's when everything starts to fall apart. Number 9. He makes predators nervous because they can't get a read on him. When a Sigma male reveals his dark side, even the most cunning predators, the manipulators, the aggressors, the social sharks, start to get nervous. Normally, these types thrive on reading their prey's reactions like an open book. They bait, provoke, push emotional buttons, and expect to steer the game. But the Sigma, he's a puzzle they can't solve. He refuses to play by anyone's rules but his own, and that unpredictability rips their control right out from under them. He doesn't take the bait. When others try to stir the pot, he just observes with that cold, unreadable calm. No anger, no fear, no desperation, nothing that can be exploited. That silence, it's a weapon. Without a predictable response to latch onto, predators lose their footing. Their usual tricks, gaslighting, intimidation, guilt, fall flat because the Sigma isn't hooked. He isn't reactive. He's unshakable. What really shakes them is that he doesn't follow scripts. In social games, most people move predictably, defend when attacked, retreat when overwhelmed, seek approval when doubting. The Sigma skips those chapters. His moves are like chess pieces placed in unexpected squares, throwing off the entire board. That throws off predators who rely on patterns to trap and control others. And when the game's no longer in their favor, the natural instinct is to retreat. Because something you can't control, something you can't predict, becomes a threat. It's the unknown, and humans are wired to fear what they can't understand or dominate. That nervousness from predators isn't just a minor inconvenience for the Sigma male. It's a signal he's won before the fight even starts. The dark side doesn't roar, it just becomes untouchable, inscrutable, and completely off limits. In a world where power often comes from controlling others, the Sigma's greatest weapon is the fact that he can't be controlled or read. That makes him more dangerous than any loud threat. And it terrifies those who try to hunt in the social shadows. Number 10. He becomes brutally honest and forces others to face truths they've denied for years. When a Sigma male's dark side surfaces, his honesty cuts sharper than any blade. He doesn't sugarcoat or soften reality to spare feelings. Instead, he delivers truths with surgical precision, targeting the exact lies and excuses people have been hiding behind for years. It's not about cruelty, it's about exposing the raw, uncomfortable reality that others refuse to face. This kind of honesty is terrifying because it bypasses defenses. It doesn't give room for denial or distraction. When he speaks, it's like someone pulling back a curtain you've desperately tried to keep closed. Suddenly, all the facades crumble. The stories you told yourself to feel safe, the illusions you nurtured to protect your ego, all get stripped away in one cold, unfiltered moment. Most people avoid this level of truth because it forces change. It demands accountability. But the Sigma doesn't care if you like what he's revealing. He's not your therapist, your cheerleader, or your excuse maker. He's the mirror that shatters complacency. Because of this brutal honesty, people either respect him or fear him. There's no middle ground. Some can't handle the spotlight he shines on their weaknesses and run away. Others can't help but be drawn to the clarity, even if it stings. His words don't just expose you. They leave you no choice but to confront who you really are beneath the noise. And that confrontation is scary because it's raw, unpolished, and demands real transformation. He forces you to see your own reflection with brutal clarity. No apologies, no filters, no mercy, and once you hear him, you can't unknow what you know anymore. Number 11. He invokes loyalty without asking, and people resent how much they need him. When a Sigma male reveals his dark side, something strange happens. He invokes loyalty without ever asking for it. There are no grand speeches, no forced friendships, no need to prove himself. People just find themselves drawn to him, orbiting his presence like satellites caught in a powerful gravitational pull they didn't anticipate. It's not about charm or charisma, it's about that quiet, unwavering calm he carries, even when everything around him is falling apart. His steadiness is addictive because, in a world full of noise and chaos, he becomes a rare constant. People don't fully understand why they trust him, but they do. And that trust breeds an almost involuntary loyalty, one built not on promises or assurances, but on the simple fact that he exists with unwavering certainty. It's a loyalty earned by showing up unshaken when others crumble, by being the eye of the storm rather than a part of it. But here's the twist. Even those who dislike or resent him feel that pull. They hate how much they rely on someone who refuses to give guarantees, who never begs for allegiance, and who won't tie himself down to anyone's expectations. That dependence feels like a trap, and it frustrates them because it strips away their illusions of control. They can't manipulate his calm, can't bait him into drama, and can't predict his next move. This creates a weird tension. People want his steadiness but hate that they need it. They crave the security he unknowingly offers, yet rebel against the vulnerability that dependence forces. He never asks for loyalty, but it grows naturally around him like an invisible fortress. and that fortress protects him while simultaneously making others painfully aware of how much they crave the very thing they pretend to resist. In the end, the Sigma male's dark side doesn't just inspire loyalty, it demands it silently, unsettling everyone who finds themselves caught in the gravity of someone who makes no promises but feels like the safest place to land. Number 12. He shows others how truly replaceable they are, and they feel it in their bones. When a Sigma male reveals his dark side, one of the most devastating truths he exposes is how utterly replaceable others are, even those who once thought themselves indispensable. He doesn't make a show of leaving. There's no dramatic exit or emotional farewell. He simply walks away, steady and silent, without the slightest glance back. And in that moment, the people left behind feel a cold shock deep in their bones. They suddenly realize that much of their identity, their sense of importance, their quiet confidence, even their daily rhythm, was tied to his presence. They relied on his subtle influence more than they ever admitted, his steady energy silently shaping their world without fanfare. But he never clung to any role, any relationship, or any expectation. When the Sigma decides something no longer serves him, he detaches with surgical precision, severing ties without hesitation or remorse. That loss isn't just painful, it's a brutal awakening. It hits harder than betrayal because it forces people to face the uncomfortable truth that their significance was in many ways borrowed. They discover they were holding on to a mirage, a shadow of connection that vanished the moment he stepped away. The stability and quiet power he provided weren't guarantees. They were privileges they never earned, and he didn't owe them permanence. This realization shakes foundations. It strips away illusions of control and importance. It leaves people questioning who they are without the Sigma's silent gravity pulling at their orbit. And that's a terrifying void to confront. The Sigma's dark side teaches the hardest lesson: no one is indispensable. And when he leaves, the empty space he leaves behind screams that truth louder than any words ever could. The Sigma male's dark side isn't some exaggerated villainy or theatrical meltdown. It's a silent force of nature, quietly reshaping everything and everyone around him in ways most don't even realize until it's too late. When this side emerges, it cuts through illusions, expectations, and social scripts with terrifying clarity. He becomes a mirror, reflecting brutal truths, a calm eye in the middle of chaos, and a ghost who can walk away from what others desperately cling to without looking back. This is a man who transcends shame, who refuses to be predicted or controlled, and whose patience for self-destruction in others is as cold and relentless as time itself. What makes his dark side so profoundly scary isn't just the power it wields. It's the way it dismantles the very foundations people rely on to feel safe, important, and in control. It forces everyone around him to confront their own weaknesses, dependencies, and fears in ways they never bargained for. There is no mercy here, only ruthless honesty, unshakable stillness, and an almost supernatural detachment that strips away every mask, every lie, and every desperate attempt at emotional blackmail. Yet beneath this terrifying exterior lies a man who has mastered himself so completely that he no longer needs the approval, the validation, or even the presence of others. His strength comes from total freedom. Freedom from societal judgment, from emotional chains, and from the frantic noise of the world. And that freedom, while liberating for him, becomes a weapon that unsettles, unnerves, and ultimately breaks those who can't match his level of self-mastery. In a world obsessed with control and appearances, the Sigma male's dark side stands as a stark reminder that true power lies not in domination or revenge, but in the ability to walk away, to stay silent in the storm, and to patiently watch the inevitable consequences unfold without flinching. This is a power so profound, so unyielding, that it demands respect, even from those who fear it most. To face the Sigma male's dark side is to face an unvarnished reality, one where illusions are shattered, loyalties are tested, and existential fears come alive. It's a confrontation with the raw, uncompromising truth of what it means to be truly free. And once that truth is revealed, there is no going back. If you found this deep dive into the Sigma male's dark side as eye-opening and intense as I intended, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss content that challenges the status quo. Drop a like if this resonated with you and share your thoughts in the comments. What part shook you the most? Let's get the conversation going. And if you know someone who needs to hear these truths, share this video with them. Your support helps us bring more raw, unfiltered insights your way. Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding the darkness is the first step to mastering your own power.